All right, so this section is for everyone, whether you're doing a lab or research-based event. These are general event supervisor procedures followed up in the same video with scoring procedures. Okay, so team numbers. Everybody's going to have a team number. You will have a list of it, of course. You're going to have a score sheet. But if they don't have it, then they need to go back to their teacher and ask him for it. They will have a wristband. Make sure you check the wristband. And when they walk in, they need to also sign in as they enter the room. So you're going to stand at the door, have the sign-in sheet by the door, make sure they're in the correct hour, and check their wristband. So they sign in, check their wristband, make sure in the correct hour. Now, here's what I say to you. If we've got 7 teams per hour, there's 6 hours that the events will run. There is no break. But if a student comes up to you and says, well, can I switch to a different hour? I have no problem with it, but I'm not going to tell them that they're allowed to do it. So they can't use me to say, well, Mike said that they can move over into this hour. I will never say yes to that. It has to be up to you, whether you've got the room in the event to accommodate. If you've only got 7 spaces for a lab event and an 8th team shows up and they want to be in there, obviously they cannot compete. If you had an 8th slot, somebody didn't show up, you can let them in. But it's completely your call. Okay. When you're preparing your event, I've got this event template. It's up on the website. I can also send it out. I'll make sure it's also on our Wigio site. That just sort of helps structure your form so that you've got a place for the raw score, a place for the rank, team number, and all the important information they put at top. You can just also duplicate this right from the screen. Okay. Start times. We start at the top of the hour. We're going to use internet and cell phone time. They can come in late, but don't give them any extra time at the end. It's certainly not a benefit if they come in late, but if they do come in and they disturb everybody, then it could be grounds for disqualification. So, they just got to come in and get started immediately, but don't give them any extra time at the end. So here's a copy of the schedule. This was from last year, but it's still exactly the same format. So anatomy here, this means that teams B1 through B9, because this is a middle school schedule. So you're going to have either a middle school or high school schedule depending on what event you're doing as an event supervisor. That means that in this case, now I want to remind you that this is old. We have gone to having 7 teams per hour and not 9. So this would say anatomy teams 1 through 7. So this is B1 through B7. So they are scheduled to be in at this time. We also have self-scheduled events, and these are things that the teams will do online. They'll put themselves in to their own slot within an hour. You will have a copy of the teams when they show up for each hour. I'm going to put that into your registration packet in the morning, so you've got that. So that's not something you'll get ahead of time. Don't need to worry about it. But you'll see which teams are slotted for each hour. Any teams that don't sign up on the self-scheduling system that's here, that let's say they miss it, they miss the deadline, they don't get it in, whatever the reason, they have to come and see you in the morning before the event start to tell you when they will be competing and if there's a slot. So, team B17 may come up and go, okay, I want to compete from 1 to 150. You'll look at your schedule and see if there's any time slots available. You'll say yes or no. All right? So that's all up to you. Make sure that when you're doing your event, sort of build in a little bit of time at the end to make sure that the teams leave their site, the place that they're working on, the lab, clean, that all the handouts have been accounted for and everything is taken care of and put up. So we also are going to be giving you garbage bags, so just make sure that you pick up in the room any garbage is left over, and if you can bring your garbage bags, and I'll let you know in the morning where that will be, but it'll be out behind the building where the Harris Engineering Center, where you can drop off the garbage bag. So we do want to keep the campus clean in this case. If you have any disqualifications, so this is what a disqualification is. It's where they have outright disrespect and they're not following the rules. This is not a case in which they are, they built boom a lever, they used the wrong kind of wood. In that case, we have tiers in which they fall in. So it might be that they fall in 4th tier. A disqualification is worse than not showing up. So we reserve Disqualification only for cases in which they are disrespectful, they are, talking back, they're being rude, whatever the reason is. I do need to know about that. So if there is a disqualification, make sure you document that clearly. I need to know about that. Again, there's a difference between legitimate mistakes and blatant disregard for the rules. We're talking about blatant disregard for the rules. So disqualification for scoring purposes is not when students attempted but did not follow the rules, built something incorrectly, didn't have safety equipment, anything other than behavior related. Now the only thing is, there's an exception to this in this year's rules, and that is in Write It, Do It. They actually say that if the teams draw a picture, they're disqualified. So in that case, they're disqualified. And it says very clearly in the rules, you draw, you're disqualified. So that's the one exception we have to this. Now, if you make a mistake, as an event supervisor, you're empowered to make decisions. If you make a mistake and you catch the mistake and you can fix it in the first hour, then fix it. However, let's say at 12 o'clock you go, oh my goodness, I was supposed to use distilled water and I used water out of the tap for a chemistry lab. Keep doing the mistake. Be consistent. So you can be consistently bad. That's no problem. Now we might have somebody file an arbitration against you, but then if they do, because they realize that you've made a mistake in something that you should have been doing, you say, yes, I made that mistake, but I'm continuing the mistake throughout all of them, so everybody's getting the same mistake. Consistency is the key. Then the arbitration team will award it in your favor. So this is what I'm talking about arbitration, is that the students are the only ones that are allowed to file an arbitration. If they have a problem with a decision or something that was going on with them in an event, then they come to headquarters and they pick this up. They fill out the top. They have to bring it to you. You fill it out. They come and pick it up and they bring it to arbitration. So they have to walk it through. So this is the students taking it through. They'll take it to you when you get a chance. You fill it out, leave it in the room. They'll come back and grab it, and then they'll return it, and then we'll make the ruling. So, if they disagree with you, they're not to get engaged in a prolonged debate. The arbitration team will make the final ruling. I will not make a ruling. I stay out of that process. Parents and teachers can watch the outside events, but they're not allowed in the rooms that are closed, with the exception of Sound of Music. I'll let them in, and that's if the event supervisor likes it. So if you're doing Sound of Music, then you make that decision. But if you're doing an event, like we have a bunch of events that are going to be in the Engineering 2 atrium, and we also have a bunch of events that are over at the Education Gym this year. So if I've got rolls of tape to sort of cordon everybody off, but if they're communicating across boundaries, and you can warn them, and it can lead to the disqualification of the team. So the event supervisors, you're in control of the parents and the teachers, and warn them if they start to step across the line. All right. Okay, so here's the details for scoring. So we have all places will be scored from first to last place. There will be 42 teams in middle school, 42 teams in high school. And because of the nature of the competition, almost everybody shows up. We'll have maybe one team for some reason not show up, but everybody shows up. So everybody gets their ties broken. So if you have a tie at 25th place, break the tie. If you have a tie at 35th place, you break the tie. The only place we don't break ties is at last place and beyond. Now you go, well, wait a minute, how can you have ties at last place? Well, let's say you've got 4 boom-a-leavers and none of them can be tested. So they will get ranked at last place, 4 of them. And there's no way to break ties there. So that's okay. Last place, they can't compete, but they show up, so they get last place. And then beyond is a did not show. That is going to be a ranking tie. Then there's also disqualifications. So there's ties there. So that's the last place and beyond. So teams that don't compete, they receive the number of teams that show up plus 1. Now this number is locked in. It's 42. So this is 43. Teams that are disqualified for unsportsmanlike conduct receive 42 plus 2, which is 44. and then we award the overall score. The lowest combined score of all the events will be determined the winner for middle and high school. So here we go. We've got Division B. First place gets 1, second place gets 2, third place gets 3, so on, so on, so on, so on. Last place 42. Now, if we've got ties, or let's say we've got, in some events like Mission Possible, not everybody shows up. So let's say we've got 30 teams that show up. Last place is still 42. DNS is still 43. DQ is 44. Well, but let's say we got 30 teams that show up. That means really last place is 30. So it would be a little bit further up. There will be a gap there for some of the teams that don't show up. So for every did not show that is here, there's going to be a blank space in the ranking on the score sheet. So B and C are exactly the same. You're going to get a score sheet that looks very similar to this. There will be a place for a raw score. There will be a place for tiers. Now this is for the engineering events. That will be determined in the rules under the scoring section. If there's a tie break, if it is high score wins. So let's say you've got B1 and B4 and they had a tie. Then let's say B1 won the tie. You would put 0.2 here and 0.1 here. Because let's say the tie with the raw score was 44 points. This is 44 and this is 44. So they have a tie. You look at it, you determine that this is the winner. So this is 44.2, 44.1 because it's high score wins. So we're differentiating this out because we need to know that the tiebreakers are a way in our scoring system to indicate the difference. So 44.2, 44.1. If there's 3 ties, then it would be 44.3, 44.2, 44.1, depending on how they rank. We'll help you out with score counseling in that. We want to make sure that is really clearly done, and I'll give you a little more information on the morning of about that. But if you're confused, just indicate somehow who won or lost the tie, and we will help you put the numbers in when you come to score counseling. There is an Excel scoring spreadsheet that will be available on the Florida Science Olympiad website. And again, there is also scoring spreadsheets for all the engineering events on the national website, and they'll also be up on the Wigio site. I will have these. I'll email them to you. I'll probably reference them in several emails. So you want to be able to grab those and use them. When you are finished at the end of the day and you have scored everything, and please score throughout the day. Don't wait until 3 o'clock to begin scoring the student work. Keep up with it because we would like to start the award ceremony at 5 o'clock. I'm going to have 10 people doing check-ins in score counseling. So we'll be able to get you through real quickly, but we got to make sure that you're actually there to be score counseled and have all of those results ready to go. So when you come in the room, and this is going to be in the Harris Engineering Center, room 101, you're going to have the scoring checklist filled out. I'll show you that in a second. You're going to have the place, you're going to place student work in rank order, first place on the top. So if you're doing a lab or research-based event, then you'll have that in order. If you're using, for the engineering events, the electronic score sheets, the Excel score sheet, bring your computer along. I want you to email these to me as well so that we've got a copy of it. And if you do that, you won't have to put anything in rank order because it'll already be done, and we're going to believe you a lot better because the information is right in the score sheet. And then you're going to sit down with us and you're going to go through a process to verify that all of the results were correctly tabulated, put onto the scoring summary sheet, and then you're even going to walk over and tell the scores to our score enterer. So it'll probably take, if everything goes well, about 15 minutes once you sit down to get through score counseling. Now, we've had lines back up, but we get through it, so you might have as much of as a 30-minute wait depending on when you get there. So earlier is better. Here's the score counseling checklist. This is going to be in your packet. At the end of the day, you're going to go down this checklist and make sure you say yes or no on these things. Okay? This is going to come to score counseling in Harris Engineering Center, and the score counselor will go back through this and verify and check things. As redundant as this seems, at every single event that we have used this, we have caught lots of errors. The reality is the event supervisors start to get tired. It's a long day, and at the end of the day, it's very possible to just transfer information incorrectly. So because these teams get to go on to nationals, we've got to make sure that our scores have integrity, that they are correct, and they've been entered into our scoring system correctly for announcing literally 2 hours after our events end. So we have very limited time, and we want to make sure that through this process we catch all the errors. This rule about don't leave in campus is not as much of an issue because we'll have your cell phone, but all the scoring room is in 101. Lunch. We will have lunch for you, and I'm going to be ordering pasta, so we'll have some good pasta for you. It will be available at 11:30, so start to send yourself. No one will be alone. I have about 150 volunteers total. No one will be alone, so you can break off and send somebody over to get lunch that will be set up in HEC 101. By the way, we'll also have a meeting in HEC 101. In fact, that will be coming up. Student assistants, you probably won't get any student assistants, but if we do, they'll be able to be helpful. You will show up on Saturday, March 23rd at the University of Central Florida, parking in Garage C or in Lot C1 or C2. And we'll have a meeting. Whoops, forgot to change that. This meeting is not in 125. The meeting is at 810 in Harris Engineering Center 101. Unfortunately, there's 150 of us. I tried to get 125, and it's being used by some other organization on campus on the 23rd. So we're going to have to pack ourselves into 101, and we'll have a quick meeting. This is where you can ask some questions. I will answer, go over some quick things. Some of this stuff, if you watch this already, you'll have it, but I just want to remind everybody. Then you'll head to the rooms to finalize the setup. I will be on campus, and rooms will be open starting at 7 a.m. So it says here 7:30, but we'll have everything set up at 7 a.m. The rooms will be open. And I'll also let everybody know in some emails that if they're not open, then you can call the police department to open the rooms. They're the ones responsible for open the rooms, and that's 407-823-5555. Again, the police department number is 407-823-5555. I will also be on campus from 1 to about 5 or 6 on March 22nd, setting up in HEC 101. So you're more than welcome to bring supplies and everything into HEC 101. We can't have you set up in the room locations because there are going to be classes and they're not secured. However, I think if we're doing one of the events in biology or in the chemistry lab, if you're scheduled in there, we might be able to get you access. So let me know if you want to get access, and I can check on that. The first event starts at 9. Impounding, of course, ends at 10. So those events end at 10. Anything that's impound ends at 4 o'clock. And the most important thing is just have a great day. Enjoy the day with the kids. These kids are really good. They have worked really hard to come to the state tournament, and then a couple or maybe even 4 lucky teams will get to go on to the national tournament. So here is the website where I have got a lot of resources. There's also this website which you'll be invited to, where I've got a lot of the worksheets that will be put on. At the soinc.org website, that's where there's also downloadable worksheets, the scoring sheets, that you can get for the engineering events. And then, of course, finally email me, and I'll be able to help out. Big thing is that you guys are in charge. You will be doing this event, putting the materials together, getting the resources and everything. I will reimburse for any consumable supplies that you may have and may need. I'll be sending out a reimbursement form. Just check with me beforehand about any supplies or materials. And other than that, I really appreciate your help on this. This is something that I, of course, cannot do alone. Do a lot of the coordination from home, and it's with everybody's help that we can make this a tremendously successful event. So I appreciate your time, and I will see you on March 23rd.